Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Odyssey without astronomy. So let's dive right into the news. Last week we had the second post from David Braben, and well, it was an interesting one, and I have very mixed feeling about it, but let's dive through it. I'll post a link for it in the description in case you want to read this yourself. Now, in the beginning of this post, Braben talks about some of the connection issues and say that it's something they're working on, something they're prioritizing. And he also explains that a lot of the connection issues was caused by fleet carriers, which was why they were disabled for a period, which it was an intentional thing. There was a lot of confusion about it. I think a lot of people thought it was a bug, and I was actually not 100% sure either, because I think I missed that memo. So there could clearly have been some better communication from Frontier's side on that. Overall, fleet carriers are now re-enabled and all that, but Frontier is still working on connection issues. There are still connection issues. It's still not back to its usual. I had at least my last live stream went down within the first 5 minutes of the live stream. So it's not doing too well. And I think the worst part of all of these issues is that it's also affecting console players. Imagine this, or a lot of you won't have imagined this is a real thing. That if you're playing on console, you're still getting all the bugs, you're still getting all the connection issues, but you don't have Odyssey. So I really hope that we're going to see some more stability fixes coming soon so we can get this thing back to a more stable state. Now, the next topic Braben talked about was performance. This is, of course, a huge issue in Elite Dangerous Odyssey. Before Odyssey was launched, Frontier was asked on multiple occasions, will we see performance degradation when Elite Odyssey comes out with the new graphics? And the answer was no. We should expect the same level of performance from Odyssey compared to Horizon. So that meant that regardless of what system you were playing on today, you would be able to go pick up Odyssey and continue playing. That was the message that was sent from Frontier. That was the message that we got, and that was what we expected. Now, what Braben is now saying in his post is that he starts with a long story saying when they originally launched Elite back after the Kickstarter, they were aiming for 30 FPS on low-end systems, 60 FPS on high-end systems back when Elite were launched in 2014. And what he's saying now is they are aiming for the same level on Odyssey, so that a modern high-end system, not a system from 2014, no, a modern high-end system should be able to run Odyssey at 60, and a low-end machine should be able to run it at 30. That is not the same as Horizons. And if that is what they're going to end up delivering, then all they've been telling us was basically a straight-up lie. I'm sorry to say it, but it is. I mean, one of the main focuses of Odyssey is it's a first-person shooter. And that's the part that's performing the worst. While I think the conflict zones is okay the way they are implemented, I can see the idea behind them, and I think that's fine. I mean, it's not a dedicated shooter, but it's okay for what it is in Elite. Problem is, even on my system, which is what I would consider a high-end system, running a 2080 Ti, I'm getting 60 FPS in some situations in conflict zones. It's not enjoyable to play a first-person shooter at 60 FPS, and I would go as far as say as 30 is probably not too enjoyable either. First-person shooters is one of the most frame rate sensitive games, I think. So if we're only going to be able to pull, if some people are only going to be able to pull 30 out of it, I think a lot of people are just going to not get Odyssey at all. What really worries me is, like, this is not just a first-person shooter. Station interiors and hangars, like inside the station hangars, not even going out on foot, just being in the hangar, have also seen massive reductions in frame rates. And what's going to happen to last-gen consoles? These consoles was originally released in 2013, so these would probably today be considered a lower-end system. So are they going to be expecting 30 FPS in hangars and in stations, and maybe even worse in conflict zones? No, I don't think people's going to buy that, to be honest, and it's definitely not comparable to what we saw in Horizons. And we're not even talking about VR here. I mean, VR is super frame rate sensitive. You ideally want to tune your settings in VR, at least for me, so that you are sitting around the 90 frames per second mark. Because if you drop much lower, you begin to feel nauseous. Some people have very strong stomachs where it doesn't really matter. Some people are very sensitive to this and can't play VR at any frame rates for an extended period. I have to have it around 90 to feel comfortable with it. I mean, if they're targeting high-end systems at 60, and we're talking 60 FPS in 2D, what about in VR, which is more demanding than running in 2D? They're going to have to crank down those settings way down in order to be able to run at any like respectable frame rates. So as I see it, performance is the biggest issue Frontier has right now. It is to get this thing to perform. I can accept a patch coming out with bugs and half-finished things. Fair enough. I would have preferred Odyssey to come out later. I would have preferred it to come out with the console release and then give it 2, 3, 4 months more in development before they launched it. But now that it's here, I can accept there's a few bugs. Fair enough. But going out before the launch and saying we're going to see same performance, and then after launch coming out and saying, oh, by the way, no, not so much. That doesn't sit right with me. Now, towards the end of the post, there's actually something that I think is very, very positive, and that is the fact that they're going to be posting a roadmap. This is going to be posted on the 4th, that means later this week. This is good. This is very good, actually. This is exactly what I think we need right now. We need to have an overview of what are they doing, when are they going to deliver it. And I pray that they are going to deliver a realistic roadmap. I want to see when are we expecting the patches to come out. What are we expecting to be in those patches? Are they going to say, oh, this patches we're working on stability and bug fixing. We're not working on performance. Performance work is going to start here and we're expecting to end here. That's the kind of thing I expect to see in a roadmap. I'm not expecting them to sit and say, this bug is going to be fixed on that day and that bug is going to be fixed on that day. I mean, that would be unrealistic to have that detailed roadmap. I think we're going to get the broader lines, even though Frontier probably has scheduled with that there would be a hypercare period after Odyssey. I think the amount of work that they had to do it after launch was way bigger than even they have expected. I can't help but think that this must somehow affect the console release. I don't know this, but I just have a feeling that with all this work the Frontier is now putting into getting Odyssey into a working, performing state, that's got to take time away from getting it ready for console. And that can mean two things to me. Either one, they're going to postpone the console launch, or two, they're going to rush the console launch as well, launch it too early, and it's going to be as buggy as it was when Odyssey came out on PC. I hope they go for option one. I know that is disheartening, but I hope they go for option one. I would, of course, prefer if they could deliver it on time, but I just don't see that being possible right now. Now, last week, we also got the first real patch for Odyssey. All the other things they've been posting have just been hot fixes, but we got the first real patch. Frontier posted a very long, very uncharacteristically detailed patch note. A lot of it was a lot of small things. Like, there was nothing like big masses that stood out to me. There was some stability fixes and a fix for a lot of smaller things. Now, I want to mention here, as much as we can discuss and whether Odyssey should have been launched now, whether they should have waited or not, I think Frontier's handling of, at least their prioritization of fixing bugs after launch has been spot on. I mean, they started working on things that would lock up people's client, things that would prevent people from connecting, and very broken game mechanics, things that would cause people to lose progress. Those kind of things were their first priorities, and I think that's the right way to prioritize it. And it seems as if right now that performance is one of the lower prioritized topics right now, which makes sense. I mean, if you have a game, if you have the option of either you not being able to log in, but if you are logged in, you have amazing frame rates, or you can log in, but the frame rates might not be amazing. I would prefer the last, to be honest. So I think the way they prioritized it is spot on. Now, despite the stability issues, there are still some serious issues with Odyssey. A couple of guys over on my Discord has been stuck in a crash to desktop loop. Whenever they try to log in, they just get kicked out to desktop. And there's also some weird things happening in the Delphine system down in the Pleiades sector. It's one of the systems that was attacked by Thargoid's burning station in there. During a community goal, there was like 50 carriers that jumped in there. I believe the system is now down to like less than 20 carriers, and people are still not able to log onto the system and jump a carrier in there. And because the system was attacked by Thargoids, this has meant that groups like the Anti-Senior Initiative and Project IDA, who repairs stations, have had a really hard time working in the area because, well, if you want to repair a station, you need to ferry massive amounts of goods into a system, it's really handy to have a fleet carrier in the system, so you can jump that in with all the materials, offload it off to the station, get them repaired. So that slowed down that progress quite a bit, and I think this just adds to the ever-growing list of things Frontier has to fix. I don't know why this system specifically is special. I mean, that was the same system where we last week had the bug with the station falling out of orbit, so I don't know if there's something going on in Delphi. If Frontier's done something special in that system that's going to be enabled at some point, and given the location being where it is, it will probably be Thargoid related, but it seems there's something special going on with that system. There's been speculation that Frontier wants to permit lock the system as part of some kind of law event, and that's why they have like locked fleet carriers out and they're just waiting for people to leave. So when all fleet carriers out, they're going to permit lock it. I don't know, but this is all just speculations. So I don't really know exactly what's going to go on, but there's something weird going on with that system, and we'll probably keep an eye on it, see if more news comes out of it in the coming weeks. Now, finally, I just want to talk about the live stream tomorrow. As always, live stream on YouTube and on Twitch at 7 o'clock in-game time. My plan is to go over on my exploration alt this time. I haven't played on it at all since the launch of Odyssey, so I want to go out and do some exploration. I don't have any suits yet. I have the flight suit, of course, but I don't have any suits other than that. So I'll probably be beelining it back towards Colonia and stopping along the way if we come across some interesting looking planets, of course. But that's all going to be tomorrow, as I said, on both YouTube as well as on Twitch. But that's going to be it for this week. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I will see you guys in space.